2 of Spooky Southcoast. Wow, when was the last time that we said that and actually meant it? That we actually, we actually got almost a full show out of tonight. Thanks, Red Sox.
And thank you for winning.
Yeah, they won too, so everybody's happy. You know, the Spooky Southcoast fans are happy because they got a full show. Red Sox fans are happy because they didn't lose on a Saturday night for the first time in a while. And we are happy because we are talking with our guest, Necole Stevens. You can check out her website, NecoleStevens.com. That's Necole with an N-E. And you can also check it out linked up on the front page of SpookySouthcoast.com as well. And a little bit later on in this hour, we will share with you some of the evidence collected during last week's Legend Trips event at the Murdock-Whitney House in Winchendon, Massachusetts. And it was quite a night. We got some pretty cool experiences out of it, including I had some pretty unique things happen.
Yeah, that was fun.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I won't be eating peaches for a while. Let's just put it that way. And we'll talk about all that coming up a little bit later on in the program. But if you would like to join us on our next Legend Trip, it's happening August 30th at the Edaville, USA theme park in Carver, Massachusetts. You're going to get, hopefully, if we can sell this event out, you're going to get a train ride. We're going to do the history of Edaville on the train.
That's awesome.
So instead of sitting in a room and getting a lecture, you are going to be on the train hearing about the history of the park. And also we're going to have the run of the entire park all night long. The rides won't be on, but we will have the opportunity for people to get discounted admission into the park during the day while it's open. So you'll have the chance to go and ride some of the new rides that they have and to see, you know, some of the different exhibits that they have that are open during the day. And, of course, you can get a train ride during the day as well. However, just to make everybody aware, during the day, it won't be the regular train that will take you around. It will be Thomas the Tank Engine, the actual Thomas the Tank Engine.
Interesting.
So if you've ever wanted to, you know, ride off to the island of Sodor, you'll be able to do so. Just go to legendtrips.com if you want to find out more. And also be sure to sign up for the Legend Trips email list when you go to legendtrips.com, because if you get on that list, you get the first crack at tickets whenever we announce them for an event. We always do a pre-sale for our mailing list first. So you will have the exclusive first crack at those tickets for whatever the next event may be. So we're working on it.
Basically, if you're not on the list, you're nobody.
Exactly. Wait, before I say that, I should just make sure I'm on the list.
I'm on the list, so I can say it.
All right, I think I am.
I'm not on the list.
Loser.
You better get your stuff together.
I know.
Well, we are working on, we're trying to put together an event for October, so we just haven't decided where we're going to go yet. But it will be somewhere local in New England, so stay tuned for that. Legendtrips.com, again, is the place to sign up for all of that. All right, let's jump right back into the discussion with tonight's guest, Necole Stevens. And welcome back, Necole. We were talking in the last hour about how you utilize your gift and how you're able to help pass on these messages. I can imagine that for as much as those who have passed on are trying to get you to relay these messages, it must mean so much more for the living to be able to hear them.
Oh, absolutely. I think we all work as a team. It's a team effort.
And, I mean, you're someone, too, yourself, who has gone through a significant loss in your life.
Yes, my 11-year-old son passed away unexpectedly in 2010.
And so for someone like yourself who, has these abilities, have these gifts, and you think that you have a handle on the way the universe works, it must have just been like a sucker punch from fate for you.
Yeah, you could say that. That's putting it very mildly.
Sure, yeah.
And my brother had passed right before my son had passed. My younger brother, only sibling, he passed unexpectedly, and I remember that morning when my son had passed, as odd as this may sound, I remember this line coming out of my mouth and me saying, I'm not even done grieving over him yet. Like I hadn't got to catch my breath from my brother passing. Mm-hmm. And, I definitely struggled with that. Like, I really did think I had things all figured out. And what I did figure out is that none of us are exempt from anything. It's just anything can happen to anyone at any given moment. Life changes in the blink of an eye in a second.
So when you deal with that, obviously for someone who just goes about I don't want to say a regular existence, but for those of us who don't have the abilities that you have, to go through something like that is hard enough. What must it be like for you yourself to have to deal with loss so significant and still have other people's loved ones, trying to reach out to you at the same time? Or was that actually comforting at all to be able to still make those connections?
It was comforting. That's why I was thinking of how I would word this, because it was actually very comforting, because all of a sudden my work had even a deeper meaning, because I knew how, not that I didn't before, it just was just different. Mm-hmm. When we go through experiences, we grow through them, in some way. And I just felt such a deeper connection to spirit, because now I understood the meaning of that connection even more so than I had, prior to my son's passing. And I don't connect with my son like people think that I do. We don't, for most of the mediums that I know, any of my colleagues, we don't connect with our own loved ones, so it's not the same. I don't sit and eat breakfast with my son. Like people think, sometimes they'll say that, well, you get to eat breakfast with him, you're lucky. And I say, no, I really don't. I couldn't trust the information coming through for myself. He has connected with me. I have seen him, but it's still not the same as when I connect with somebody else's loved one. But I know what I would want to hear being a mom. I know it's just so much deeper. The only difference that maybe, and I don't think it really has to do with me being a medium necessarily, but I never questioned if he was okay. So I never had that, like, where is he? Is he okay?
Sure, yeah.
That was one thing I didn't do. I just, I knew he was okay, and I never questioned where he was.
So I
questioned a lot of other things.
It was a decision, a conscious decision on your part, not to try to make that connection then?
With Zachary?
Yes. That was.
No, I would connect with him, but Is it
kind of then like the universe keeps it from happening? Is that how it works?
No, he has came through to me. It's just I second guess it. I'll question it more.
Okay. I
so,
see.
For example, if Zachary tells me he loves me, I will go, wait a minute, am I just thinking that? Am I crazy? Of course he loves me. No, I'm just thinking it. Whereas if your loved one tells me, I'll say that they love you. But if Zachary tells me my birthday, well, I already know my birthday, so that's not really validating to me. Mm-hmm. Whereas if your loved one tells me your birthday, I don't know your birthday, so I don't question it. I just listen and relay the messages. And it's very emotional. I have done a reading for my mother-in-law, and it's really, really emotional. I have to disconnect, really, really disconnect, because he's still my son, and he's right there, but it's still different.
And is it for you then, when you're trying to share these connections that you're making with other people's loved ones, do you ever try to use your own situation to explain to them, how does it mean something more to somebody who you're giving a reading for if they know that you've also gone through this, and so therefore, you understand exactly where they're coming from?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do use a lot of my own experiences, my own challenges. I'm very, very honest and open about my grief, and I'm very raw with it and truthful. It's not an easy place to be, and a lot of people will equate spirituality and grief, and they're really two different things. They're very, very separate. One can help the other, but they're very, very separate. So you can be very religious, spiritual, whatever it is that you are, your faith. But grieving is something we do here now very much in the physical, and it is, our grief is born out of love. So it's our missing, our longing. We want, wanting them right here in front of us so we can hold them and touch them, something tangible. And so, I definitely grieve, and I share a lot of that with my clients.
Well, I think that a lot of us look at people who have abilities such as yourself, and we look at it as you're able to see kind of beyond what we're limited in seeing. And I don't mean that in a physical sense. I mean that in terms of, the big long picture of life and what happens after we're no longer on this plane. You kind of can understand that because you're dealing with it every day. For us, I think for a lot of folks, grief is probably more about fearing the finality of things when that might not necessarily be the case. Do you feel that there is a point in time when we are all connected again later on, when we leave, the mortal coil?
I think that we're all connected here, and we continue on to be connected. And we find it more and more of how connected we are, who's brought into our lives, and what synchronicities happen. And I get really excited about it because, not about, I don't want this to sound crazy, but I get really excited about all the synchronicities and the way it all falls into place. But that doesn't take away from my missing my son. And sometimes people can misinterpret that, like, kind of, wait a minute, how is she doing okay? I know he's okay. He finished his job here, kind of did what he had to do, and I will see him again. I know that. There's no question in my mind that I will see him again. And we're going to reconnect. He will be there waiting for me. And I've seen it with other loved ones that I've read for, that the mom has passed and the son had already passed prior, or, their child has passed and their child had greeted them, and it's just the most beautiful thing.
Well, those who are skeptical of your abilities and people who have the ability to interact with spirits, they usually will point out to the fact, they say, well, all you're doing is you're profiting from those who are grieving, and you're taking advantage of people who are grieving. And maybe it's just because I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by spirit mediums that I know and I trust, like Tiffany and Stephanie, but to me, it seems like it can do way more good, and it's just another way to help people through with that process. And I would actually say that even a person who, let's face it, there are some people in the field who are either not as good as they pretend to be or just have zero abilities whatsoever. But if they meet with somebody and that person comes out of it feeling better and being able to let go of whatever it was that was keeping them from being able to get past that grief, I don't see a problem with it.
Right. Well, I mean, there are some people that, of course, they may not be as truthful as they're saying they're going, I don't know, like, there's definitely people out there that are not trustworthy, for sure. But I can tell you this, as far as any medium that I know, I'm not sure John Edwards, mediums aren't rich. So, people don't think like they have this misconception that we make a ton of money, and I know most of us can only do so many sessions per week physically.
Sure.
We're able to. And I have a college degree. I gave up a really good career to do what I'm doing full time. And I could have been making a lot more money if it was just about money. And I work a lot more than I did before. When I worked, I'm a nurse by trade, but I haven't worked in about 15 years nursing. And I also walked away from, I was getting my master's in psychology. I have 3 classes left, and I walked away from it all. And I'm still paying Sally Mae, you know what I mean?
Sure. And I can imagine that even as much as you're able to be able to turn things off and be able to focus away from it when you need to, having your abilities in the nursing field just must have been extra taxing.
Mm-hmm. It was just, that's why it was time to leave, and, I just knew where I was supposed to be, and I was actually doing this on the weekends, and, part-time, and just kind of taking clients when I could, and then it was my calling, and I just knew I had to do this, and I just said I need to just, walk away from all of that and do this, and I work like 60 hours a week now, if not more. Some days I'll actually be in this chair in my office for like 20 hours between sessions and writing, and,
I hope it's a comfortable chair.
My husband always says, I don't know how you sit in that chair. Look at your ass. Oops.
We say ass on the air. But
fun.
Yeah, we're pretty laid back and relaxed. But you can feel free to disagree with this, and Stephanie, you can feel free to disagree as well. But I think that you probably have less people who are, and getting back to the idea of those who aren't legitimate with their talents, or those who aren't as attuned as they should be with their talents. I think there's actually not a huge amount of people who are outright frauds. I don't think there's a lot of people who are just saying, hey, I can act, I can pretend, and I can get some money from people. I think it's probably more people who misinterpret things and don't really understand how they can utilize these abilities correctly. I think it's people who are probably reaching beyond their current talent levels.
I agree with you. I don't think there's as many. I did have one woman, I will tell you this because it's actually kind of funny. I had a woman tell me after my brother passed, my mom wanted me to go with her to see somebody, and we went, and this woman actually said how my brother was uneasy and unsettled and all of this stuff. But if I gave her $2,500, she could
Oh,
talk to
my
her
God.
people, and her people could settle him. And I was like, Mom, let's go. I was trying to get my mom out of there.
Well, hopefully your mom wasn't pulling out her checkbook at the time.
No,
Okay.
but I'm sure she was listening. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, don't even listen. Exactly.
There's
Well,
a lot of people out there like that, and then
I don't really encounter a lot. I did encounter this, specific person, but I was, it was a little crazy.
sad.
But
usually the neon sign in the window that says psychic readings is usually the
I
giveaway.
mentor, and I push my students. I really, really push them. And I was saying, and I'm joking, of course, but I was saying, listen, do you want to be the blinkety-blink pink sign? You want psychic in your window? Or do you want to be good? You want to be great? You want to be the best? Like, you have to push yourself. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication.
yes, it does.
You don't want the sign in your window.
You want to know how bad it is actually for me? Is this morning I co-host a financial show in the morning, and I don't know anything about finance, and but I know how to press the buttons, and here and the guy who does the show doesn't know how, so he needs me along with him, and he was talking about when he became a stockbroker. Excuse me. He was talking about how, when he first started dealing with the stock market, they gave him a box. And they said, here, don't break it. You're never going to get another one. It's the last one that you're ever going to get. And he says, okay. And he turned around and he dropped it and he broke it. And he said, and ever since then, he doesn't have a crystal ball to predict the stocks. And I don't know what's wrong with me, but the first thing I said to him was, oh, if you need a new crystal ball, I know people that can get you one.
No, you did not.
Not even realizing that, he was making a joke. So,
I have friends, I swear.
not only can I get you, I can get you a discount too. But you mentioned being able to mentor people, and that's a question that we actually have in the chat room at Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com. DVD Rhino asks, and I'm going to ask the question exactly how it was worded in the chat room. How can we Muggles hear the voices of those who may be
Yes.
trying to reach us?
That is my new favorite person, just so you know. I have a Harry Potter obsession, I'm sorry.
So does Nicholas, my little open one.
Yes, you're 11-year-old, and I'm
Yeah,
26, but that's okay.
It's all right. Nothing wrong with that. But there is a way for people to be able to be more open.
There is. Meditation is, I swear by it. I think that really helps when you quiet the mind, because when you have so much chaos going on in your mind, you're not going to hear anything else. So, that's one of the first things, is to really learn to quiet your mind. It doesn't have to be 3 hours a day or even an hour a day. It can be 15 minutes. But you really, it's really important to quiet yourself, because in order to hear, you need quiet. And we're so easily distracted by everyday everything, all the challenges and mayhem we go through. So I think that that's one of the most important things to do, is really start, honing in on yourself and becoming one with yourself, and then quieting your mind and starting to embrace the messages that you do hear. And they can be anything, thoughts, colors, images, whatever it is, and you're in that place, and just start journaling them. And when you start journaling them, they start to make sense, and you'll be surprised at that, because they end up telling a little story. And I actually posted today, I posted a blog, or maybe it was a couple of days ago, but I posted a blog on my website about 5 key tips on your intuition and how to use them and how to trust it. So head over to my blog, check it out. There's a little free test, too. A little intuition test.
There you are. It's right there on NicoleStevens.com, which is linked up on SpookySouthcoast.com as well. You can click it right under the little picture there. And
I love the ladybug. Ladybug's my favorite.
so if people can do that, if they can become more open and start to become attuned, I'm sure the natural inclination for a lot of folks, as you mentioned before, is to try to reach out to their own loved ones. But is it important that they don't try to do that right away, so that they can make sure that it's a legitimate message coming through and not just their own hopes and thoughts being projected back at them?
I think they have to trust themselves, because for myself, when I do get messages from Zachary, it's the same way anyone else would. So I just have established my own relationship with him the same way you would, anyone would, my husband would. It's being open to the signs and the symbols or the messages that he'll send me, but it's not me hearing him in the way I hear spirit, if that. It's very, very different. It's just the regular, normal person way. It's not the same way that I do readings. So I'm just in tune to it. My awareness is very open. that may be a little bit different than some people. And some people are going to be very aware, and they're going to have amazing messages from their loved ones. So it really has to do with your awareness and how in tune you are with everything around you. Because sometimes we go through life and we're just in this fog, and we just kind of exist, and we go, 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 go. And we kind of don't even notice what's going on around us. You have to notice things around you to be able to embrace it. So you have to, stop and smell the roses, so to speak, so that you're able to tune into those messages.
Well, before we let you go for the night, we do want to ask you if you have, I know that you have a bunch of different events coming up, including one locally to where you are, and then also you'll be traveling around some as well.
Mm-hmm. I have my new Believe to Achieve, and this actually isn't really on grief. It's more on visualization, intentions. We're doing vision boards. We're keeping it very, very small. And it's going to be really exciting and fun to do. It's a little different for me. I used to do this a long time ago, and so I'm reincorporating it, and I'm really excited to do it. So listening to your soul and finding out where you're going and what you're doing and how to get there, and really listening to your inner self and your inner guides and trusting that process.
And then you have some seminars coming up as well. And if people want to get in touch with you directly, you can give them individual private readings, whether it be in person or via various technology. Yeah,
I do phone sessions and in person, and I am traveling, which I don't think my new travel list has came out yet for 2015. I know that 2014 is up, which I think is sold out. And then we're adding some in. So if people want to stay updated, they can sign up for my newsletter. That list goes out first with all of the new dates. I have a book launching in September, and we'll have a book tour with travel dates on that coming up.
And what is the book on?
It's on spirit.
Nice.
And it's called Perhaps You Can't See Me.
Well, and perhaps after reading it, maybe you'll be able to. Well, definitely keep us up to date with everything that's going on, including the book and any other projects that you have coming down. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope that you'll definitely come back and join us again.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
It was great talking to you, Stephanie.
You too.
And
congratulations, Steph.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, did you know that automatically, or did you hear
No, I
about
knew
that?
from Facebook.
That's
I'm not a fraud. I'll tell you right about the info.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Necole, for joining us, and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Good night. That is Necole Stevens. Her website is NecoleStevens.com. That's Necole with an N-E. And if you go to SpookySouthcoast.com, it's also linked up on the front page there as well. Why don't we take a real quick break? When we come back on the other side, we will talk about last week's Legend Trips event at the Murdock-Whitney House in Winchendon, Massachusetts. We will also have for you some of the audio clips that people have sent in and some of the personal stories that they have shared as well. If you were out there with us at the event and you'd like to call in and share some of your experiences with us, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. We'll be back in a moment with more Spooky South Coast in just a moment here on WBSM.
Always on air, always online, always free. AM 1420 WBSM.
Little Jack Horner sat in a corner of his ransacked apartment, wondering what kind of nitwit steals a futon. Luckily, the Geico Insurance Agency had helped him with renter's insurance, and he got full replacement. Unfortunately, little Jack Horner had to have his stomach pumped when he ate a 6-month-old Christmas pie. Visit Geico.com to see how affordable renter's insurance can be.
We are now renting booth space for the largest yard sale the South Coast has ever seen. Put your pile of stuff to work for you and make tons of cash. We're renting spaces for crafters, artisans, small businesses, and anyone else who just wants to sell their stuff. Don't waste your time making tons of cardboard signs. Let us bring hundreds of shoppers to you. For more information or to rent a space, visit WBSM.com.
Ladies, if you're experiencing the symptoms of menopause, life can be challenging. Hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings. What about low libido and weight gain? Let's face it, menopause is miserable. Finally, there's relief. Internal Harmony is an amazing product created for women by a woman. It's designed to relieve menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, and more. Internal Harmony contains clinically tested ingredients that also help increase energy and mental focus. And now you can lose weight safely and effectively with Internal Harmony weight loss. Call now to get relief from menopause and ask how you can get a free 2-week sample of Internal Harmony weight loss. This is a limited time offer, so call right now for details. 1-800-711-0761. That's 1-800-711-0761. 1-800-711-0761. Or visit harmonyforwomen.com.
Hey, Bob, how's business? Is the new website helping?
Not good. I can't figure out how to get the website finished. How did you do it?
Easy. I called web.com. They built my website for free. Then they promoted it on all the search engines.
Like Google, Yahoo, and Bing?
Exactly. And web.com has helped grow my business so much, I had to bring on new staff.
Hey, if web.com did it for you, they're perfect for me. Call now, 1-800-535-8815. That's 1-800-535-8815. Again, 1-800-535-8815.
For the music, that is The Attic. If that was playing in my attic, I'd never go with it.
I was just gonna say, it's a little creepy. It's almost like you can keep Chisholm's voices in the background or something.
I believe it was created as part of the soundtrack for an independent horror film, so it definitely fits the bill. I'll say this, though. I have not been in my attic in years. I'm pretty convinced. Have you seen these photos going around, like Facebook and social media, of the gigantic hornet's nests? Like the one that somebody had a statue in their shed, and then when they opened it up, there was a huge hornet's nest that had been built like around the face, and just these gigantic, horrifying.
You see the one in, what was it, like a 56 Buick or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
That thing was crazy.
Yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of that stuff lately, and I'm convinced that there's one of those in my attic. So I don't ever open the door to the attic.
I don't blame you.
Nobody goes in, nobody goes out.
Right. And, like, there's all these things that, like, I'm missing in my house. I'm like, I wonder if it's up in the attic. Well, I guess it's lost forever then.
Oh, my God.
It's bad. I was actually at a yard sale earlier, which, by the way, I scored a pretty cool, I scored a lav mic.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And so, but anyway, I was at this yard sale, and there was these gigantic hornets that were flying around that were like nothing I'd ever seen before. And the lady's like, "Oh, is there something over there that you're interested in?" I'm like, "There's something over there that I'm not interested in. Those giant-ass hornets." "Oh, no, they're on the yard all the time. They won't bother you."
Sure they
yeah,
won't.
okay. Yeah.
I had one land on me the other day while I was on my pool deck.
And did you freak, or did you just
I
hold
totally
still?
freaked because I'm like anaphylactic if I get bit.
Yeah,
so.
see, I can't. It's like the only thing that I can't be brave
that's
about.
it,
No matter
provoke
what.
it.
Yeah, I have an issue with things like that. That happen. It just happens to me. Yeah. Well, one landed on my face during my high vows at my wedding.
Really?
Yes. It's on YouTube.
Is that like some kind of a sign? Was that something that you arranged? Oh no, we gave away the secret. Now everybody knows who that is behind us. I'm sorry. Way to go, Tim. I'm sorry. I was thinking the whole time we were talking to Nicole, the only thought that kept running through my head is we really should start giving Brendan headphones so that he knows what's going on over there. Like he just looks lost.
I can hear some stuff.
Oh, we probably could. There's a slot left.
There, we could always run a long pair over there.
This one would totally reach.
Well, speaking of headphones, if you are listening to this via podcast, or even if you're listening to it via your computer, I got to cut your face off, Matt, so I can see better. You might want to put your headphones on because we're going to play some clips for you that we got last week at the Murdock-Whitney House in Winchendon, Massachusetts. As we mentioned, it hadn't really been open for paranormal investigation for very long. It had only been about a year and a half since they'd started letting groups in. And I'm talking like paranormal groups, like 5, 6, 7 people at a time, not huge groups of 50 like we brought in. So this was a new experience for them, and you could tell, like when we got there, Moniz, you saw it.
Yeah.
Don was a little bit concerned about how it was all going to go.
Well, there's a lot of antiques in there that are expensive and things like that. I can understand.
The house is just incredible. It's so beautiful in there with all of these, artifacts of Winchendon history and just history in general. It's definitely worth taking a trip up there to check out, even if you're not going for the ghosts. But you could tell, like, they were like, how is this going to work? And we're telling them, Jeff and I are like the whole time, like, don't worry about it, man. We've been in places with far more expensive stuff than the stuff you got. But, you could just kind of sense that. And it only took maybe the first 5 people coming in before you saw all those nerves start to melt away.
Yep.
And they realized what a great group we have that come to our Legend Trips events. So thank you, of course, to everybody out there who is just, they're all first-class individuals, and they understand and appreciate the fact that they're getting to come into this place, and they're getting access that they normally wouldn't get. We have the entire house except for one room, and the only reason we couldn't go in that one room is because it was the office.
Yeah.
And they said, there's nothing in there anyway, and that's where we keep all of our files, and we prefer that people didn't go in there. That's fine. It's like a room the size of like your bathroom at home. That's how small it was. So that's not your bathroom in particular, Moni's, but just somebody's bathroom. Yeah. So other than that, we had 3 stories of the house and the basement. Generally, Moni's and I get stuck in the basements quite a bit when we go to these places. And at first, they're like, do you want to take the basement? And I was like, oh, gee, I don't know. They got this awesome new central air that they had just put in. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go down to the basement.
It was the coolest room in the house.
It was cool. But when I went down there and I looked and I saw the basement, I was like, yeah, no, I'm going down to the basement. This just looks awesome. And then I told you that we were in the basement. I was like, wait till you see it. And it was just, it was awesome. The different rooms that they had down there and the different sections of it. And the fact that there were these artifacts down there that could be carrying their own energy. There was it looked like the picture of the guy from Home Alone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was enjoying looking at a lot of those pictures, the old pictures and photographs.
There was one, Matt, that I don't know if you went down there at all.
No, I didn't get to go to the basement.
It was an older gentleman with like a long white beard and white hair, and I was telling you, he looked exactly like the next door neighbor from Home Alone.
He's not kidding.
Oh, yeah?
He's not kidding.
And every time I showed people, like one person actually was like, "Is that really? Did he live here?" Like, because it was that convincing. But Matt, you were on the 3rd floor.
I was up in the servants' room in the toy. The kids' room.
That's where the toy room.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to go up there.
It was kind of creepy. There was all these dolls that just fall.
Yeah.
The eyes follow you around the room.
And were people having a lot of experiences up there?
There was one experience in particular from Candlelight Paranormal. I think you have the EVP for that.
I do. That's where it was captured.
Yeah, yeah.
So just kind of give us a little bit of a breakdown of what was going on up there.
So they were going into
this is
one
called
of
the fill while I get the file ready.
one of the toy rooms. They were investigating in a closet with a FLIR camera, and they stepped inside, and one of the team members heard a voice that said "Get out." So kind of got freaked out, exited the closet, and one of them got scratched. I don't know if it was from...
It was Paul from Candlelight, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was from exiting the closet, like, in a speedy fashion, but...
Well, he's been scratched before on events. I mean, I think that he's got a style, let's say, similar to, like, how I approach things, where, he gets a rise out of the spirits.
Right. I mean, I was trying to rub my arm against the door jamb and stuff and trying to get... And nothing... I don't know. Maybe I have tougher skin. But I always thought I bruised.
Is that because you were trying to recreate it, or is that just because you were itchy?
I was just itchy. I was actually just scratching my back.
I do that all the time in door jams. Yep, that's kind of how I am. Yeah. So, all right, let's play this clip that comes from Candlelight Paranormal.
If you got scratched, gang 3's over here.
Yeah. Who gets scratched?
Necole. No, that wasn't you.
All right, we'll play that one more time.
Yeah. Who gets scratched?
Right there, one more time real quickly.
Who gets scratched?
Necole.
And I had said, what's that reference of that's me, but you were talking about something that they were seeing on the infrared camera.
It was either they were taking it was something on the infrared camera, or they were also in there with different instruments like K2s and stuff like that. So I don't know if there was what exactly they were talking about then. But it got a lot of people excited about, and I think Andy came over and was getting all the details, and I think both of us looked at each other and we're like, we're going in there before the end of the night. We're going in there, closing the door, shutting off all the lights.
You can definitely hear something. It doesn't say get out, but there's definitely an EVP there.
You weren't hearing Get Out?
Mm-mm.
I did.
Supposedly they heard that audibly too.
Yeah.
And then got it.
Let's play one more time.
It's not two separate words.
Sounds like kale. Kale soup.
It sounds like...
I can tell you that, by the way, we were in the basement using the Ouija board, and I'll share some of that in a little bit, but at one point, the spirit that we were talking to over the board repeatedly, we asked why it was there, and each time it answered with the same answer, cake.
Cake.
And that cake that we had was phenomenal. So I could see wanting to reach out from the other side and get a piece of that cake. We had a cake for Dustin's birthday. I don't know if you saw the picture, Stephanie.
I saw the pictures.
It was 14 pounds of cake.
Thank you for getting that cake when I wasn't there.
There was like a third of it left, and we left it up there for the Historical Society.
What made it 14 pounds?
What didn't make it 14 pounds?
Let's say you have to tell everybody at home.
It was a double layer sheet cake. So it was two full-size sheet cakes stacked on top of each other with a layer of Boston cream in the middle. It was, one half was yellow cake, one half was chocolate cake, and it had white frosting all around it, and they drew little ghosts on it and wrote Happy
I did love
Birthday,
the little
Dustin.
ghosts. That was my favorite part.
Those were cool. And it was definitely one of the best. I mean, the place where we got it from a supermarket chain. They usually have pretty good cake, but this is the best cake that I've ever had.
This
from
was
one of
good
those
cake.
stores.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, and the pizza was good too. Which it's always a crapshoot when you go in somewhere that you've never been before.
Right.
But Don at the Historical Society recommended Christo's as the pizza place to go to, and they did not disappoint. The only thing I was disappointed in was how little people were eating that cake. I was like, do you not realize how good this is?
It's just more for you then.
And I
thing
had
was
more than my
huge.
share. 14 pounds of cake. All right, we do have some other EVPs that we can play. These come from Christy and Alicia from Spectral Forces. They were in there with us as well, and we were down in the basement, and they were conducting a session with the dowsing rods. And I don't know if you've seen how they usually, one will run the rods and one will run the pendulum at the same time, and they see if they get similar answers out of it. And they always seem to have some pretty wild things going on. This actually happened, if I can get it to download here. They were using the dowsing rods.
I know you've been clicking on those people's ass. You can make a noise, but that doesn't count. Unless you click them 3 times. You can click them 3 times, and that would mean something. You know, light some of these lights up? Ouch. No more. Ouch.
So, and those ouches were because they were But yeah, they actually did click 3 times when we asked. So that was pretty neat.
I love Christy's accent too.
Everybody does. Jeff and Dave Schrader nicknamed her Sugar Booger, and that's all I can think of every time she talks now. But here's another clip from them as well. This was in the basement when they heard a loud noise. If I can.
Altogether, would you think, how many people on your family? Yes, I know you had a family. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to count it, and every time you cross the rods, that tells us that was a person that lived here. There's nobody sitting here. Well, that just looked like an
And it's funny because we heard, at one point we heard it right out in the hallway. Now, in the basement, there is, as I said, multiple rooms, including this one long hallway that only has 2 little rooms off to the side of it. And we were in that very back room. Moniz, you had everybody else on the opposite side of the basement, which is a pretty significant distance away. And where everybody was down there, you were doing your own thing, so it was just, I think, 5 of us in total in that room and nobody else in between. And we heard something happen in the hallway, right outside the door.
Oh, my God. Oh.
We're talking ghosts, and Taylor pops in behind us.
You're lucky I didn't say whatever I was about to say.
But, well, you know, and...
Don't they know I see dead people?
Right. So the with that basement set up the way that it was, we could hear if somebody would have walked down
easily
to being outside that room. So we heard this noise and there was nobody else around. So that was pretty interesting. Then we have another one that happened too. This was if I get the story right, this was in the back parlor. It was Christy and Alicia as well as Frank and Cindy, and they recorded what they think is a Class A EVP. We'll play that right now. Give me a second.
Yep.
So
you like having visitors to the house?
You can kind of hear that in the background there.
Sounds like a little girl.
So they think it's saying wonderful
like having
name.
visitors to the house?
So I don't know if that's the same thing that you guys heard. Wonderful name.
Definitely sounds like a kid, though.
No, it sounds like a kid. There's more words in there besides wonderful name.
See, now, Alicia was concerned that was one of their... There was a person in attendance who is a little boisterous with her investigative style and a little bit loud. So she was worried that maybe it was that person. And I don't think... I've investigated with the person that she's thinking on a number of different occasions, and I don't think that it sounds like that person to my ears. So I don't think that that's what it is. But I can understand where she would make that connection because that person usually is pretty loud. But to me, I just hear the same thing you guys are hearing. I hear what sounds like a childlike voice.
It's an inquisitive manner in what she's speaking. She's asking a question.
And whatever it is at the end, if it is name is the second word, it's kind of like name.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't fit the speech pattern of the person.
Can you boost it a little and play it one more time?
Let me see if I can go a little higher. I can go higher here and a little bit here. I just don't want to blow everybody's eardrums out.
I hope not.
So I know a lot of our friends out there can kind of take that and mess around with it and see if they can come up with a little bit clearer version.
I think the first part is saying right here.
I didn't hear that.
It sounds like wonderful at the beginning to me.
No, there's a lot more words in there. It's just mumbled, almost like it's in a distance.
And this one here, this last one that I'll play, this came from the third floor closet. It was just Alicia and Christy in this closet. And they were using the rods and they were using the pendulum. And Christy says that the rods kept hitting her audio recorder while they were in there as well. But Alicia was using the pendulum at the same time, asking questions, and she got a response to one of those questions. And they also caught a voice that seems to have been responding as well.
They told us that this older lady is sort of protective of this floor.
Yeah.
They told us that this older lady is sort of protective of this floor.
Yeah.
You hear that little whisper there?
Sort of protective of this floor.
Yeah.
That first bit that you played doesn't sound like Wonderful Name to me. It sounds like
I agree.
A British girl saying, "What went wrong?"
Well, let's try that again.
What went wrong?
You like having visitors?
She says, "What went wrong?" and then with something, something, something.
It's definitely a question she's asking. I agree with that, but it's a sentence. It's a full sentence.
That's one that hopefully some of our audiophile friends can pull out and run through their different processors and see kind of what they can come up with. But it's definitely not the voice of anybody that was there, I don't think. having talked to everybody there. And that yes that we just played, that's definitely...
That was cool.
That sounds exactly like yes to me.
Protective of this floor.
Yeah.
Just a straight whispery yes.
Protective of this floor.
Yeah.
Woman's yes.
Yeah. And if it was just the two of them in the closet, Matt, you knew the layout there better. I mean, is it possible that could have been bleed through from somebody else being outside the closet, or?
I think at that time everybody was in on the opposite room with the dollhouses, and so I don't think anybody was outside the door or anything.
See, Christy and Alicia are very good about that too. They try to make sure that when they are going, they look to see where everybody else is going. And they go in the opposite direction. Well, because that happens, because you have a lot of people who it's their first time, so if something's happening, they're all going to run to that experience, and not realizing, of course, that if 40 people all descend upon one corner of the room, whatever's going on is probably going to go away, but they'll do that, and then Alicia and Christy will see, well, here's our chance to go be by ourselves.
They take their investigative style very seriously, too. I've watched them both, and I've also, friendly with both of them as well. And I want to say great job to the two of them for getting those EVPs in a house full of 50 people.
Right.
Because that's actually really significant.
And we did have some pretty interesting, as I mentioned, with the Ouija board down in the basement. Jessica and I were using the Ouija board, and it was her first experience with it. And she really was excited to try and do it, and she didn't know what was going to happen. And we kept getting this spirit coming through, so that his name was Richard. She wrote me the whole thing, Richard Das, D-A-S.
Okay.
And, or was it? Well, anyway, it was Richard. And he was the one that was saying that he was there for cake. And
I don't blame him.
all these different things were coming through. So what happens, now I'm not a big Ouija board fan necessarily, like I'm not inviting people over and playing with it at a party.
When you do, things usually go wrong, just saying.
So, let me finish the story here.
Uh-oh.
So I decided to, use these at events within the last year or so. And before that, I never really touched them. So what happens to me, I have my first Zozo experience with the board, which I'm not convinced that it's the story that everybody thinks it is, that it's some sort of demon that comes through these boards, says that its name is Zozo or Zoso or Zaza. There's all these different ways that it comes through, but I'm not convinced that. I think it's kind of in the subconscious of people.
It could be, yep.
But Jessie had never heard of that before. So it wasn't like it was in the forefront of her mind, but I had.
But you had.
So to me, and I know that I wasn't intentionally moving the planchette. So to me, if it's my own subconscious making that happen, that's just as fascinating to me as if it's a ghost or a demon on the other side of the board.
People don't realize, for those of you at home that don't know, I've been doing table tipping for over 10 years now professionally. And before that was just for fun, with people that I trusted. But it's the same thing as a Ouija board. Our own energy and our own subconscious can absolutely move whatever it may be that we're trying to move before spirit energy does. So it's very possible that either it was you or it could have been somebody standing in the room and just thinking about it. So.
And she said, well, if this is Richard from, I think you were saying this from the 1920s, if this is Richard who is controlling the board, he wouldn't know about Zozo. And I was like, well, he probably does, because if you become a little bit more knowing, or maybe all-knowing, when you pass on, then why wouldn't you know? And why wouldn't you use it? If he was already messing with us, already playing jokes on us and telling us he wanted cake and everything, why wouldn't he go a little bit further?
They definitely like to joke, so that's true.
So we only have about 4 minutes left, and I want to get to Moniz's experience as to why I probably won't eat peaches for a while.
Oh, no.
And but before we do that, I mentioned, I've only recently begun using the boards, and you mentioned bad experiences. One of those was at the Haunted Victorian in Gardner, Massachusetts. Next week, our guest will be Joni Mahan. She's written a new book called Bones in the Basement that deals with the haunted history of that Victorian mansion. So we will have her on next week to discuss all of that. But Moniz, in the basement, tell everybody what was going on.
While I was down there, I had heard about maybe 3 or 4 little objects moving around the room. Paul from Candlelight was standing next to me, and he got basically hit in the leg with one of these objects that then ricocheted off of a spare door that was laid up against the wall, and it rolled in behind us. Turns out to be an old peach pit. And through course of looking around the rest of the basement, there were several others of them scattered about the basement. Obviously, there was a peach tree outside, and rodents had brought them in to eat them, and they were scattered about the floor. But on several occasions, these things did go rocketing across the room.
Yeah, they told me that story, and I was like, well, maybe somebody stepped on it, and it shot out of their foot.
Could be.
And, or, something like that. So then we're over there, and I forget what we were doing exactly.
We were just standing there.
And then all of a sudden, one flew at me.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, nobody's over in that corner to have stepped on one and shoot it at me.
Exactly.
So it's a lot like that Ghost Adventures brick, where it's just something that was laying there for the spirit to kind of move. It's probably a lot easier to move a peach pit than it is a brick. But right after that happened, we're all standing right there,
yep.
and directly off to the side of where it came from.
The shadow in the grid?
No, that was on the other side of the wall, behind us. But immediately we heard a female laughing in the room with us, not coming through the floor upstairs. We heard somebody in the room with us laughing. So whoever it was, they knew that they were playing tricks on us. And but mentioning the laser grid, we did have all kinds of shadow experiences, shadow movement. At various points, we were all standing there watching shadows fully form and walk across the walls, and we had all those EMF fluctuations with the K2 meters, where it was very localized, and it was very intense too. And that was the first group that we were down there in the basement with right off the bat. So it just seemed like a phenomenal place. If you've never been, it's worth the drive. It took us about 2 hours to get up there. It's worth checking out. Again, this was the first big event that they've had there, but they have let other paranormal groups in. If you do decide that you want to go up there and investigate it, if you have a group that you would like to go up there, contact them. Let them know that you're willing to make a donation, because, trust me, it's going to be worth every penny. And we want to thank everybody that came out. Now, I think Jeff and I are debating a little bit on the final numbers here, but I believe that we are up over $21,000 raised.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, yeah, we've already raised more with Legend Trips than I make in a year. So
well, let's keep it going.
Absolutely. So we will continue doing that. Again, August 30th is our next one. Go to legendtrips.com to find out more about that. So until next week, for Matt Moniz, for Matt Costa, for Stephanie Burke, I'm Tim Weisberg. We want you all to stay spooktacular.
For local news, talk, and sports, the South Coast turns to AM 1420 WBSM New Bedford.